Hello, everybody, and welcome to How to Turn Fear into Confidence That Creates Cash. And of course, I have an airplane going by, and I'm going to start one more time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Help Me Pivot How to Turn Fear into Confidence That Creates Cash, and how to create some freedom while weathering the storm. And I'm so excited. Today I have a friend of mine on. His name is Alex Arriaga. And Alex is actually a financial planner, a fund manager, and he is my personal financial coach. And I must say he's made quite a bit of difference in my life and how I feel about my finances. So I'll have him introduce himself. So thank you, Alex, for being here with me. I think you're going to be giving us a little bit of a different perspective today on how to turn fear into confidence.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gabby, for having me here. I'm excited to have this conversation with you and everyone listen to it. I believe that when people listen to other people's conversation that lift them up and have an ability for them to create value from it, I think it's just an education that everybody gets to have. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you today, and I look forward to our conversation. And any question that has to do turning fear into power and like shifting away from it, because it basically uplifts everyone and puts everyone in a simple path.
Yes. So right now, this is my passion project, by the way, that I developed during quarantine, because I noticed there's so much fear around us, right? And their unemployment is at an all-time high, and there's a lot of worry about money, finances, and in general, uncertainty about the future, what the future might hold. So what would be your advice? What would be the first thing that you would do to help people shift out of fear?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing is to establish where you're at. Some people have different types of fears, and I'm sure like everyone have experienced it, but there's two main conversations that people have. One is time and one is money. And that's a constant conversation that people have when they start experiencing fear. So the first place is just to talk to yourself and be honest and believe that what you're experiencing has to do either with time or money. A lot of people may not think that those are two avenues to go. But if you look at it, you want to have something that it starts allowing you to simplify your questions in your head. So I would say step number one is for you to simplify where that fear is coming from, because if the point of this is to pivot out of it, it's important to know where is that fear coming from. So if it's time or if it's money, just give yourself an opportunity to just explore where it's that coming from. Some people have a fear of time, and when they have a fear of time, it's a lot of a conversation about scarcity, because they feel like I don't have enough time in order to do this, or maybe I wish, and maybe you probably said this to yourself, I wish I had 72 hours in a day. And I'm sure a few of you are probably like laughing about it right now, but because it's something that you experience. The other one is like, will I have enough money in order for me to live the life that I want to live? Because there's a goal, there's a vision that you want to complete in your life, and you seem like you're trying to reach, and it keeps pushing away and pushing away. So which conversation are you in? That will be the first step in order for us to start moving into the way of away from the fear, learning from the fear, using the fear as power to propel you moving forward. So that will be the first question I would have for someone who says, Alex, right now I'm experiencing a life where I'm not happy with it. And so we will go into that question. Is it about time? Is it about money? And that will give you clarity. And the importance of you having clarity moving forward is clarity will develop a path that is not clouded. So how many times have you ever been in a position that when you feel like, I'm very clear how to do it, I've gotten the instructions, or someone explained to me, or when I read it, it's just very clear in my mind. And then all of your fear starts dropping, and then you start taking committed action to move forward. So that's the first step I would say someone has to, go through in order to identify, where do I go with this pivoting out of fear? especially in a time like now. I mean, I think this is an amazing time to have this conversation. You know,
Yes.
2020 is a year that has been extremely disruptive. And when I mean disruptive, I mean it from a very neutral place. You know,
Yes.
yes, there's differences of opinion left and right, who's right, who's wrong, and, you know, what do I do in the middle of this pandemic or, you know, this protest? And, you know, I'm sure, you know, some of you will listen to this maybe years later and you like, oh my gosh, you know, we really went through that. So it's important to have this conversation. Avoiding the conversation is not going to serve you. Avoiding the conversation is basically you shoving it down. You don't want to speak into it. How is it affecting you? And it will come back up again at some point.
So I really like this because so first of all, find out, ask yourself, where is that fear coming from, right? And what is it that I feel uneasy about? So obviously COVID, right? But we already know what to do. We already learned everything about, you know, social distancing. And yes, there's still some fear out there, but there's also a big concern about money because there are a lot of people on furlough. We don't know what the economy is doing. And since I have you and you're my financial guru, so let's just speak into and advise some people that are worried about money and their future. So how can I first of all, how do I pivot, right? And or what can I do to prepare myself better for the future if something like this happens again? So these are actually two questions. So let's just start out with, I'm sitting at home, I don't have a job anymore, and I'm worried. So what shall I do?
So it's a great question, and because the answer will come from a place that you will take action. And right before you start taking action, then ask yourself this question. Is my fear about money right now that I don't have enough, or I believe that I'm going to run out of it soon? But I want you to know this. In every aspect of time, when it comes to the economy, when it comes to money always will flow. I want you to know that. Money will always flow. And the shift of wealth always will happen. Let me give a very, very simple example. If you were in the logistic and the healthcare and providing materials for that industry, you probably would have experienced right now a huge amount of money shifting to you. I mean, we were not using masks, you know, at the rate we're using masks right now. So what I want you to hear from here is that money always flows. Are you in the receiving side or are you in the giving side? Depending on where we are. Because if you're not willing to pivot, which is a wonderful word to say, because it's not about changing your beliefs or changing your, you know, the way that, you know, you feel about things, but it's about shifting your strategy. If your strategy is not valuable to where we are, to the market, then you're going to have to shift out of it, because instead of receiving the wealth, you will be giving the wealth away, which means that you will be always consuming, because all of us will consume, but you're not going to have any money bringing in. So you get to identify what are your superpowers that you have right now, in which I can implement those where the money's following. Some of you would be like, okay, well, Alex, I'm a nurse, and I know I've been like, you know, overly used, and that's not what I want to do because I'm tired, or maybe that's something that you're experiencing right now. And I'm just using an example. If you're not a nurse, then that's okay. If you're a nurse and you're tired of what you're doing, then what else have you seen in your industry, because you're so close to it, that would allow you to reduce the amount of time because you're so exhausted, where you can provide a value to the people that need it, and then have something to offer that will benefit others, that you will exchange value for money. Because money is just an exchange of value. That's basically, if someone doesn't see value or does not believe that they can do it, money will not be exchanged. So you get to figure out what is it that the public, the world, it's requiring or is desiring as value, and do they believe that they can do it? Very simple example. We'll go back to the mask thing. Like, Do people believe that a mask will be valuable to them so they can avoid COVID? Well, some people will say yes, and some people will say no. Well, don't get into the controversy. Just say,
Right.
okay, so the people that says yes, let's just say your idea is like, I'm going to create masks and stuff like that. You know, who do you get to be in front of so you're providing that value? So the same question you get to asking any aspects, like for example, for us is real estate. You know, real estate is one of those things that I tell people is bare necessities of life. And it's just like, you know, you probably heard me say Jungle Book many times because I love that movie. But there's things in life that are bare necessities. And I'll share them with you. Bare necessities are shelter, which is real estate, energy, because we consume it in a way that you turn on the light, you probably put gas or electricity in your car, and also food. Those are three bare necessities of life that will never go away. And think about it for a second. During this time of pandemic, protests, has any of those three things not been needed? They have been. They have been. So looking into the things that are bare necessities of life as part of your financial planning or your portfolio or your investing strategy will always have a demand. But how do you apply that into your life? And then it's like the first question that we talked about, time and money, then you got to figure out those things. You got to figure out if money is the conversation that you're having, then what part of those bare necessities of life will bring me happiness so I can actually exchange value for money in something that is totally needed. Again, for us as real estate, either providing capital, lending money, buying properties, that it's an idea that is not just a theory. It's just something that it's probably something that you can identify. How many of you noticed that when, you know, this COVID thing happened, you know, people were like, you know, buying toilet paper and, you know, doing all these things, yes, that they see value for. I don't know. I'm still quasi, you know, not understanding about the toilet paper, but food has been a need. When we went from like really strict to less strict, you guys notice that, you know, the food lines, you know, call it the big warehouses, you know, Costco or whichever one you go, supermarket, they had a huge line. And a lot of you now are working from home too. So maybe your shelter right now, which is called home, may not be appropriate, but you will if you work for you know, if you work for Twitter, because Twitter just announced about 3 weeks ago that no other employee of Twitter will go back to an office. That was their announcement. No one else. So you understand that that is a population that needs a shelter that also allows for them to be able to work from home. That's a special need.
Good
And
point.
for that reason, if you provide value to what's shifting in ways of paradigms are shifting right now, because we did the largest and the biggest experiment about working from home globally, then you will start identifying what's valuable things that you can offer so you can exchange your value for money. And then you're starting attracting money your way. So I hope that, you know, that little context about understanding, you know, where is the money shifting to based on the necessity, the desires of something that is a bare necessity for humans would allow you to start being clear in your mind of what do I do when I want to make more money. Because if you're right now in the position that I don't have a job, or, you know, the things that I was doing before are not helping or not just like, you know, helping me financially, then you get to shift from it in a way of a different strategy. I will never, ever encourage you to like, you know, shift the core of who you are, because that's what makes you. Not only you offering value to others in form of a product or a service, it's what they desire, but they also desire to be part of the consumption of someone that has a specific way of belief or the way you operate or your own story that they can connect with and choose you among someone else. So that part of you gets to be you.
I
It's
love
just
that.
a
Let me just
strategy.
summarize a little bit, because so we get the message across clearly. So what I heard you say is see the opportunity out there based on necessities, right? And obviously we always will need shelter, right? We always, you mentioned food. And what was the third thing?
Energy.
Energy. So, and here you're giving beautiful examples on how we should be aware what is shifting, what is changing, and how can we provide value to those changing environments. And then the last thing I heard you say is, and still, be yourself, right? When you are thinking about providing value, right, for money, right? Because it's all about, it's an exchange, it's a flow, right? Flow of energy, giving and receiving. So still be yourself, and don't chase the money, right? Still be yourself and be open for opportunities, and think about what is changing right now, what is necessary right now. So did I get that right?
You couldn't put it any, you put it so beautiful, and this is the reason why you're the one who's interviewing, because you put it very beautiful. And the second part of it is that yes, absolutely. And the second part of it is, if you choose to go that route, I promise you that you're going to enter in the conversation of time. Every entrepreneur, every even employees that continue to go up in the ranks of the corporate ladder, if that's your choice, either one of them, you guys will have a conversation about time always. And a conversation of time is just basically a lack of intimacy. Now, let me explain that, because you may or may have not heard that before. And what it means by a lack of intimacy means that you becoming someone transparent, that when you need help, you ask for it. And that's part one. Some of you just want to, become an entrepreneur, do the things that I'm sharing you, identifying, investing, or, doing all these things that are going to propel you financially. But there's a point in your life that you're going to want to do everything yourself. Some of you, not every one of you, but if you're laughing or you're like, smiling, I'm talking to you. So the ability for you to be transparent about when you need help and accepting the help will actually set you free. And it will give you a path moving forward so you can grow. So this vision or this desire that you want for others in order for you to also create for you will expand. So yes, you can start with a conversation about, which is usually the conversation that people start with, and then they talk about the time conversation. So those two are gonna happen. It's just which one you are in first, because some people are like in the conversation of time, and what it means is that they have mastered the ability to identify how to make money, but they just haven't figured out how to expand. And they're talking about, I don't have enough time. Like if you're in a conversation of time right now, you get to be transparent and vulnerable that you need help, and accept it.
So in order to stop that conversation about time, I ask for support, right?
Yeah.
So who would I ask for support? Give me some examples. Who would I ask?
So you got to ask for people that believes in what you're going for. And a lot of them are going to connect with who you are. So you have to be yourself, because if you're not, then you're going to be bringing people into your world that they're believing in you based on the person that you're pretending to be. And that will bite you in the rear at some point. It would really stop your growth, and then you're going to have a headache, and then you're going to have that conversation again about like, oh my God, they're not doing the thing that I want to do, so I have to do it myself because I can do it better than anyone else. And then you're going to go back to that question of time. So along the way, you get to be yourself, and believe it that being yourself it's the best thing that you can do to attract people. So when you're asking, is because someone's already in front of you following. The best people to ask is the people that already like you, the people that, believe that you stand for, they believe what you're going after. And that's just because they want to be around you. So might as well be yourself. So when people want to be around you, they can continue to experience the real you. So your growth financially, in this case, since we're talking financially, to financial growth, it's something that is not heavy and it's simple,
right?
And you experience clarity.
Be authentic. Right? Be authentic.
Completely.
So, but I do believe that, however, being authentic and having financial security, though, right, will help you also during times of uncertainty. And I just want to share something that you have impacted in my life, because a couple of years ago, you had me open a self-directed IRA, right? And I still have a 401k too, like a lot of us, right? And during quarantine, I noticed like there was this time my 401k went like deep down. I'm like, oh, and a lot of people around me, they were getting nervous, right? But I noticed that the fund that I had invested in with you, it's like kept on going up. No dip there. So it made me feel calm, right? Because I'm going, okay, now I'm not going to lose everything, because I did invest in some real estate, right? And through my self-directed IRA, per your advice. So, and I must say that also gave me peace of mind, because because the worst thing also is if you do have that scarcity situation, and so many of us, we go through these dips, right? And some of us are relying on our 401ks, right? And I know you're not a believer in that, but that's not the topic. What I'm saying is having a plan, right? Having some kind of a financial plan, and having the bottom of the, pyramid taken care of, which actually is, right, what you're talking about, food and shelter, and having, energy, and having health, right? These are the basic things that we love to have, right? So, and you definitely have made an impact there. So what would you say to people right now? And I'm not asking you to give like exact, financial advice right now, because that will take, I know these conversations, we don't have time for those conversations, but what would be one thing that people can do today to have more financial stability, so they don't have to worry about money on top of everything else?
I would say to align with something that produces cash flow for you. And something that produces cash flow for you in a way that it's tied to things, again, that are necessities of life. And I'll tell you why I say that. Because you could be attached, and in this case, I'm going to use real estate again. You could be attached to a real estate place, and real estate historically have continued to grow in, I don't know, since a long, long time. And yes, does it have cycles? It does. But it's how do you position yourself when the downside comes? So you got to protect your downside so the upside takes care of itself. So how do you position into those investments are going to be, are going to be important to choose. And yes, we're not entering in too many details, because otherwise we'll go very technical on what I'm talking about. But just know that even through disruption time, like we sort of experiencing right now, like, borrowers may not be, making their payments, and, or people in the real estate renters may not be, making the rent. But if you have created a structure that, if that's the case, because, a lot of these things were not voluntary or were not market driven. I mean, there's a balance. There's a balance of what our governments have asked us to do, which is basically stop. I mean, they have put the brakes in a lot of us, and I understand that part. There's a balance of it. There's a balance of like we get to protect lives, so I'm happy with that. But there's a balance of like how much brakes do we put in order for our economy to continue to do what we do, which is basically move our economy. So there's a balance on that. But the ability for you to basically be in places or investments that will be bare necessities of life, it's an important component of your portfolio. I'll share that, if you build a solid portfolio, solid investment strategy that allows you to have that constant, yes, you can take all the other different risks. You can take that, but allow yourself to have something that, it's placed around bare necessities of life because you know there's always going to be a demand. Yes, they do have cycles, but at the end of the day, well-structured investments will just flourish for you. It may be like hey, you know, we're experiencing a stop, but that's very different from, you know, investments that you will experience as more risky. Like I don't know, investing in a new invention. Is that new invention something that it's, you know, a value to the market, or is someone else's desire that they see that, you know, I think this will be cool? You can take those risks, but I would not build my pillars on that. I will actually use that as like, if I want to increase, or because, you know, they're higher returns and I'm willing to take some of those risks. Sure. You know, sure. I'll look into that. But just build something that has the ability to sustain the element of time, because constantly has been needed and constantly and historically has grown. And that will be a sort of sane, you know, I wouldn't call it advice per se, because there's nothing very specific, because I don't know each one of your cases, but it will give you a point of reference so you can actually start looking at things that will benefit you in the future, or even right now, starting right now.
That's beautiful. So there's a question that I want to ask you that I ask everybody about,
Yes.
you know, fear. And that is, what message would the 100-year-old Alex have for the current, you know, present Alex in regards to fear? Or just give him a message. What would you tell him? What would your older self tell your younger self?
My old self will tell my younger self, believe. Believe that everything happens to you is for you. All the time. Because that old self is basically telling my young self, any anxiety that you would have is not worth it, because everything that happens to you is actually for you, and there's a reason why it's happening that way. And you could probably see it right now as something detrimental, but it's preparing you for what's for you. And when I was much younger, it wasn't my way of thinking. And I'm sure it will evolve until I get to 100. And I've been declaring for years that I'm going to be 120. So I love this question, because I'm determining that I get to enjoy this world up to 120 years. That's just a vision that I have. And, you know, I trust that will happen.
And, you know, and you have some beautiful places too that you live in, right? You know the spots to pick. You have a home in San Diego, you have a home in Puerto Rico. So, and you go to very, very beautiful places that you travel to.
Yes, and the desire of that is it's based on the same answer of the question that I gave you, because I seek and I enjoy experiencing different cultures. The only human race that I think exists is humans. The difference is just a difference of pigment. That's it. But we're all humans.
Yes.
And the ability for us to share each other and value beliefs that are outside our beliefs, I think that's the most beautiful thing that humanity can do. And it's a message that, you know, I feel connected, and I say, because, you know, in times like now, I would think that would bring love and peace to where we are right now. At the end of the day, guys, we're all humans. We have one heart, two legs, two arms, one head. Yeah. And so we get to like trust ourselves that whatever we are in right now, or whatever things you have experienced in your life, are happening for us. You know, some people call it cleansing, some people call it learning, you know, but basically it's a transition that gets to happen. And so we're all, yes. And just trust that you are always going to be okay. Always.
That's beautiful. Everything happens for us. And yeah, I want to acknowledge you. You're such a beautiful global warrior, just like me. And I also strive you know, and with other cultures. I love different languages. So, and definitely see that in you also. So this is
Well,
where
that's
the
why we're in front
freedom,
of each other. That's why we're in
yeah,
front of each other, and yeah.
that's where the
And
freedom.
in this conversation in your summit, I mean, I think it brings so much value to everyone. You know, Gabby, like, you know, the ability for you to share a message, and everybody that is listening to this, I think not only just listening for self, because pivoting for you, it's cool, but pivoting and encouraging others to pivot in a way of you giving that gift to them, I think is super awesome. So you can go from cool to super awesome and just share. I mean, if you're listening to this right now and you are thinking, because some of you will think about this, like, you know, I wish I had this person listed, you know, just give them that gift. Just, you know, pass it forward to someone else, because when we all join this conversation about pivoting, not only in the times that we're in right now, but any time we're in our years that they, you know, come, I think it's important that everybody like hones in the message that you will always have an ability to pivot at any time. So whatever you're in right now, it's not the definition of the rest of your life. So I think what you're doing is amazing, Gabby.
Thank you so much. And I have speakers from all over the world that are participating in this series. So how can people find you? And do you have something? I know you helped me a lot, right? So I want to share the wealth. So how can people find you? And is there a little gift you have? Is there something that they can find out about you if they want to work with you? So how do we find you?
You guys can find me at www.simplepathtoinvesting.com, and I'll make sure that you guys have a link so they can see that, you know, and we have a guide that I can provide that, you know, what we can give it as a gift. It's just basically understanding, you know, how people, when they want to create a difference in their financial life, you know, what are the different ways or specific ways in order for you to create that cash flow that I was talking about from a place of taking care of the downside so that upside, you know, takes care of itself. And I'll make sure that I'll give you those links so everybody can enjoy that and actually open their minds, because a lot of the times, you know, I've been in front of different type of investors or people that desire to invest, and they most of the time they choose to be on the active side, which is the one that takes the most amount of time. But, you know, have anybody ever thought that you have the ability to be acting or investing like a bank, and you don't have to be one? And so I know that's something that, you know, sometimes when people hear is sort of disruptive, but I just want to let you know that's a big possibility for you. And I've seen people, and we have actually trained people to do that, you know, when they have a desire first, hey, you know what, I want to be buying houses and fixing houses and selling houses, but I don't have the time. So they're having that conversation about time. They have the money, but they don't want to sacrifice their time, because the time, what they're doing in their life, they love. And I want you to keep doing what you love, because that should always be your north. You know, we have people that, you know, they love, I mean, we've had engineers that they love what to do, doctors that they love what to do, and people that support others that they have a lot of passion. And that time to them just means the world to them. All they just want to do is something for them financially that doesn't take away from their time, so they can actually enjoy what they're doing, because that's what they do.
That's beautiful. So is there a free gift that you have, or is it maybe a conversation where you spend a few minutes with somebody? What is it that you would love to give away to our viewers?
You know what? We'll do this. We'll give him a guide or something that we wrote about understanding that, and we'll just throw in a free consultation too as well. So, you know, if you guys have
Yes,
any questions about it, you're more than happy to have a conversation with you.
that's beautiful. Now that's a very generous offer. So you have a guide and a free consultation. That's beautiful. Yeah, and so thank you so much. This was such a beautiful conversation. And what I take away from it also is be myself and look for those necessities. Yes. And that real estate path definitely worked for me. So thank you so much, Alex. Thanks for being part of this series. Thanks for making a difference in this world. And I'm sure our paths will cross again, because I love that simple path to investing. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby.